up looking for them the same as every record. So all the information they need just to work that investigation ends up on the front page for them still. So everything from resilient still gets copied to that they need immediately, still gets copied to the front page. And then when they need to go further in depth, they can go into that resilient tab, find all the extra information.
Yeah. And so as I was alluding to it before, beginning of our presentation, is that because they have such a success with this, they have another platform that they're working with that we would like to have these information piped down to that application. Yeah, we'll be talking.
So one thing in this, do you want to, or do you want me to? Okay. So I was going to say here, this is very similar to the communications part for legal operations, or was it Primerica?
Primerica.
Primerica, thank you. So basically, again, this is
I'm
just
sorry, legal operation. Legal operation.
Legal operations. So it's, in both cases, it was a really simple child object that was created here that lets you basically track information and activities as you're working this. So in that case, it was communications back and forth. In this case, since it is an investigations unit, it's to track the interviews they conduct. So they basically get fields on here, and they can track those as they go, which means other users can come back in into TeamConnect and find the records of those investigations without having to hunt for documents in other places.
Questions? Yes, Jay.
Thanks. So I see all these objects are created in 4.2. So if you were going to do an upgrade to 5, whatever it is now, what's the upgrade path for these customized objects?
So these were actually created in 3.4,
Okay.
then upgraded to 4.2. So
We just finished the upgrade last Sunday.
week ago-ish?
Yes.
So yeah, the upgrade path, none of these are using things that are any type of deprecated API or anything like that. These are all, I mean, everything you saw in there was just basically fields, standard rules, nothing terribly custom.
No CJB, no custom rules, no Java blocks. Or
really the upgrade path is very simple for that. I mean, we upgraded from 3.4 without changing those really. And then once you get into that TeamConnect 4 and you're already there, then as long as things were built standardized like this and they weren't part of like a unpublished API, then it's just the simple upgrades included for the most part.
Yes.
So with these integrations, can you use these forms for non-TeamConnect users? Can they be outward facing to gather information and come into TeamConnect, or do you have to be a TeamConnect user to?
No. So yes and no. So especially for legal operations, because our user licenses are geared toward legal and compliance. Majority of our legal and compliance. But we do have 2 other broader departments, which are business ethic and, external affairs and business ethics, sorry. And they too fall under the umbrella of what we call LCBE. They could be, so the legal operations handles their requests as well. So the way we get around that is that we give them what do they call it?
Limited privilege.
Limited privilege licenses.
I was smiling when he asked that because that's something we're working on.
Right. So
well.
The fact that they only need to submit requests, they don't need to be a full-time TeamConnect user.
Yeah, so limited privilege users they're limited first off, but basically it's a user license in there that they get a very limited privilege to TeamConnect. They only get those things that they absolutely have rights to. Whereas it's a little bit technical for it, but normal users get any access to any public records as long as they have object rights. Limited privilege only get access, they need object rights, but they don't get access to public records either. So they only get access to things they specifically have been granted rights to.
Right.
So it's a useful way to allow those users that don't need the full TeamConnect to go in, do a very specific thing, and then get out.
And another difference is that it's a pool. So if you purchase, let's say, a pool of 50, the 51st person will get denied if all 50 of them are used.
Concurrently.
Concurrently.
Yeah.
Sorry, yes, concurrently. Any other questions?
So in their case, they have, I think it is 50 concurrent licenses, but there's 700 people that are available to possibly be using that pool. I don't think we've ever run into a situation where they've run out.
It's very unlikely to have all 50 of them logged in all at once doing something.
We might be looking at something else now if 50 of them are submitting requests, legal operations.
I mean, when we have 80,000.
Yes. If you don't mind grabbing the mic.
This kind of goes in the same question as the gentleman behind me. And this is maybe more of a question for the entire crowd, but is it possible to have some type of form that faces all employees in a larger company, like I have an invention idea IP, and I just want to go to like prudential.ip.com, submit that, and then it goes to my IP lawyers.
You take that, Arnie.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and answer that one because this is something we've been thinking about. There's one of the possible applications of this is exposing something to the whole company, and conceivably we can set up the whole company as limited privilege users and then just give them access to the one piece. That would far and away be the largest example of how we've done it. Because with TeamConnect, anybody that uses the system has to have a user account. Now, it may be a limited privilege account. We've created some rules as part of this, so accounts automatically get generated. People get put into the right groups. So it's not an onerous process of managing those accounts, but you still have to have one. The whole concept of portal technology, it's on the roadmap. That's something that there's a lot of requests around that space to be able to do exactly that type of thing. And the intellectual property example is a really good one. We've done things like this around intellectual property of submitting innovation ideas, not as common, but the same tools and techniques could be used. Size become, 100,000 people trying to do this could be a bit of an issue, but it can be done. And then we're looking at some other ideas for of different parts of our suite of products that we might be able to bring to deal with many of those specific types of issues.
How many of you are, just curious, how many of you are TeamConnect 3, 4? Okay. And any one of you on 4 already? Okay. And anyone are on 5?
I know there's a few getting ready to go to 5.
Upgrading? Great. Yeah, I mean, when we did the upgrade, we went through the assessment process, and there's only a handful of things that the tools that we customized that had to be recoded, but other than that, majority of our implementation was converted. But I mean, you didn't even need conversion, right?
Yeah, I was I was actively very, very involved in their initial implementation.
He is the brain behind the projects.
And and I was very adamant as we were building things that we stayed as close to the box as possible because I wanted it to be easy to upgrade. Ramandeep, were you involved in any of the Prudential stuff, or do you already? Any of Prudential's project, were you involved in any of that? No, I think you'd already left by that point. But we tried to stay close to the box to make this thing upgradable. And when we did the upgrade, there was a very, very small number of things that actually had to be rebuilt in the new API because we had done a good job of staying close to the box. Everything worked. And there were a few things that had used some non-published API components. We had to take it, had to rebuild those. But other than that, it was pretty smooth.
Hey, Joe. Wait for the mic.
Microphone coming back.
As you're looking at using the TeamConnect platform throughout your company, as you say, to track things, if there's multiple areas that want to track something, I assume at some point you have to make a decision as to whether or not you're going to keep everything in the same back-end database, or if it's something that's completely different than law, it's in a different part of the company, but TeamConnect makes a good fit for it, you may have a whole different implementation. Is that something, I don't know what that means to licensing and that type of thing with Mitratech, if that's a whole different
Well, if you wanna
license model or how that works?
Yeah, so if you want to use TeamConnect, then yeah, there is the licensing aspect of it. But in terms of implementation of a project, whether or not they relate, it doesn't matter because so if you're doing a project for, let's say, for compliance, you create a separate compliance object that could be standalone, and you could entitle it such a way that if that's what the business need is, you can entitle it such that only compliance sees their matter. And nobody else. So when they log into TeamConnect, they only see a compliance tab and nothing else. Or not. I mean, you could, it depends how you want to configure it, but it's flexible enough for you to say, hey, you know what, I want to specialize my security security configuration for this particular group.
So Prudential has been really good about those types of security settings with that, and sort of sticking to a really best practices model where there is the use groups and the view groups. And so when you do need to add, say, just a compliance group, and they're the only ones that see that, you create a use group for that, and they get the object rights to it. So they've been really good about sort of segmenting those, so it makes it nice. I mean, if you have a system admin privileges and you have access to everything, you might have a screen that goes on forever because of it. But for the end users, you can really limit them.
I guess I'm just thinking a little bit about limiting the impact. If you're making changes in one system, granted, you probably are not going to hopefully impact somebody that's not involved in the testing of that piece, but in reality, you probably have to do a whole regression test on the whole app.
Yes. Simple answer is yes.
Yeah, if I can add a couple of 2 cents worth
Sure.
on that one. Some of the ground rules that got set up as we were going down this road was there's parts of the system that are very much shared across everybody. Things like contacts, history, and we made some design decisions that as you use these shared components, here's the way you have to play with them. So that trying to minimize those types of impacts. So if you do something here, you're not going to mess somebody up over there. But you're right, there is definitely a lot of consideration that needs to be taken to make sure you're not stepping on other people's toes.
And you do mitigate that by having separate objects for all these different things. So changes to one object don't necessarily filter somewhere else depending on what you're doing. So you can sort of segment it like that. And then I know like Prudential has a very strict change management policy for the production environment. We can mess around in their dev environment and do things there as a test, but when it comes to production, there's a really strict policy for when and how to change things.
Any other questions?
Questions?
Bueller.
Going once, going twice.
Bueller.
I'd like to thank you all for coming today.
Thank you.
Do remember to fill out the survey on your app. Very important. Thank you, Dan and George, for all of the fine content.
Thank you.
Fill out your survey. Don't forget to tip your server. We'll be here all week.